Good afternoon, welcome to episode 9 of my crafting podcast, Knitting Not Screaming. If you've been here before, thank you very much for coming back. If you've never been here before, welcome. This is a general crafts podcast with, I suppose, more of a focus on knitting at the moment. I do dabble in all the crafts, so you do get little bits and bobs of everything. I'll also tell you sort of books I've been reading, that kind of thing. But let's just dive in, shall we? I'm a UK-based crafter down near the south coast of the UK, about 10 miles inland from Portsmouth, if you know that area. And I also own the Etsy shop Gin Poodle. It's ginpoodle.etsy.com if you want to find me, where I sell these hairnets predominantly called snoods. They're 1940s style hairnets. It's like a little accessory you wear, and I make them in 3 different sizes to suit different hair lengths. I also make these fellas, Gin Poodles. It's like a really kitsch retro bottle cozy, just for fun. I also do some vintage knits and things like that I sell, but this is not really a selling podcast. I will show you a couple of little bits I put in my shop, like project bags, but I don't really have very much of that to show you. It's mainly like personal bits and bobs. So let's crack on, shall we? Last time I saw you, I don't think I'd shown you these finished. I think I'm still working on them, but I finally, after several years of them being on the needles and me reforming my attitude to whips, I finished my broken seed stitch socks in this lovely opal rainbow, and it's a sparkly yarn. And I did the fish lips kiss heel on these, and the rounded toe, which is what I prefer, from using Louise Tilbrook's Bob Socks pattern. I really like them. I like best the underneath, which is just stripes. So I do intend to do more striped things, more striped socks using scraps, I think. And I've still got quite a lot of this rainbow yarn left. It's in a little tub up there. So yeah, I might do a pair of like really super shorty socks with those, and I've got a ton of this white left, so that's good. I mean, these have been on needles for a very long time, because it's always been my thing that I don't really care if I'm more of a process knitter, so having to finish things never really bothered me that much. But I'm kind of making an effort this year to actually finish a few bits, because turns out that's quite a nice feeling. So yeah, I'm pleased with those. Goodness knows when I'll be able to wear them again, because it's absolutely roasting here at the moment. I'm sure it is everywhere in the UK, but I am struggling with it a bit, to be honest. I'm not brilliant with the heat. It's not the heat, well, yeah, I'm not great with the heat, but doubly like humidity I'm really not great with. So, and it ruins your fringe. That's my main issue. I'm quite particular about my fringe, which I haven't done properly today. Yeah, ruined fringes, don't like it. So I've only finished a few little bits this time. I only really record when I finish stuff, so that generally is about a once a month podcast for me, pretty much. So I go to most weeks I go to a little knit and natter group locally, and it's organised by a local church, and I don't go to church, but it's a not particularly churchy group, if you know what I mean. There's no sort of like religious obligation when you go to their knit group. It's in a separate like little hall, and it's just open to everyone. But they are making knitted vegetables for their harvest festival this year, and I said that I would make asparagus, and it's taken me forever to do just one stalk because it's so fiddly diddly. I do like it. Now that it's done, I like it, and I am going to make more, but all I can say is I'm glad I've got until September. Well, I don't know, when is harvest festival? August, September? I reckon I can do a whole bunch by then, but That's my knitted asparagus. I was super pleased with this, but most of the people who go to my knitting group are older than me. They're older women, probably. A lot of them are probably, I'd say, in their 70s, maybe late 60s, early 70s, some late 70s. Anyway, they're older women, and they have no filters, and they roared with laughter when they saw my asparagus. I'm not going to tell you why, but you can probably see. I've stuffed it with toy stuffing, and they thought that was the most hilarious thing in the world, because look, it gradually wilts. And I'm not going to point out why that made them laugh so much. I think you can work that out for yourself, but I'll be sticking pipe cleaners up the rest of the bunch. So yeah, they are fiddly though. I mean, quite satisfying to make, and they're really nice. I mean, they do look good in real life. They do look quite asparagus-y, which I'm quite pleased with. But I've been trying to make well, my aim was really I'd make one a week, and the next group is on Tuesday, and this is Sunday, so not looking good for that, is it? But we'll have a go. I've cast on the next one, and last week I took them with me to knit while I was in the group, so maybe that's the idea. Maybe that'd be the thing that works for me better, would be to actually knit them when I'm there. Rather than not, gosh, I've caught the sun a bit there, haven't I? But just in that one patch, which is great. I don't really tan, I'm a redhead, and I use factor 50, and I don't really go well with the sun anyway, but I do tend to get just like weird patches of suntan, like the tops of my shoulders, which I'm really good at putting loads of factor 50 on, but they do always catch the sun a bit. I showed you before one of these that I'd made, and I've made the full set now, but I've sold one of them straight away. So these are my rose print project bags. They're in my Etsy shop. What have I got here? I've got a small and a large. Yeah, the medium sold straight away, and these two little fellas are left behind, so if you want them, they're in my Etsy shop. This is I try and use recycled and upcycled things wherever possible. The contrast fabric I did buy, and the drawstring, the purple drawstring, and the webbing, I bought all those things new, but the main fabric and the lining, the lining's a remnant from curtain lining from a local fabric shop come curtain shop, basically. They do made to measure curtains and blinds, and this was in their remnants. And this fabric is from a craft charity shop in my town, which is absolutely brilliant, and that saves a lot of fabric from going into landfill. I feel good old Phil. My other finished object I'm really pleased with. This is you know Louise Tilbrook, who has the Everyday Knitter group on Facebook, and where else does she go? I think she's Discord. She doesn't use Ravelry. She's running a knit along for any of her patterns with stripes. I think it started the 1st of June, but I don't think it finishes until perhaps the end of this month. I'm not really sure, because she's very bad at putting the end date up anywhere. I can't find the end date of it every time I look for it, and then it's in one place, and then I randomly find that and instantly forget it. But I finished mine, and I'm quite tempted to cast on her one with the chevron stripes that I did before, so I can carry on going. But I did her Fuss Free Festival shawl. Oh, let's see, it's really nice, isn't it? Do you remember those fruit salad sweets in the 80s, 70s, 80s? Makes me think a lot of those. I used up pretty much the whole skein. I mean, I probably had about 30 centimetres of the main yarn left when I finished. So the yarn is by the Fabulous Yarn Whisperer, which I bought at Unravel at the start in February this year, and I bought it mainly because of the name of the yarn, because these are not really my usual colours. It's called Sparklefarts. Yeah, you heard that right, Sparklefarts, and it's pink and a lilac-y colour and this lovely cheery yellow, and I like it a lot. And I striped it with milk, which I use in these socks, which is the West Yorkshire Spinners Signature colour, and I did random stripes of the white in with the main colour, and then sometimes I threw in eyelets after I saw someone else who's doing it, called, I think she's called Elizabeth Davis. She was making one with the eyelets as her stripes, and I loved that, so I just think it's her idea. The way I randomly do stripes, so apparently there are websites and apps that can choose a random stripe sequence for you, and I just can't be bothered with any more apps or websites, so I'm going to just look, sip my water. This is the most I've spoken all day, probably more than I spoke all day yesterday too. The mister is working this weekend, so it's mainly me and the cat, which is fine, but she's not much of a talker. So when I do my stripes, what I do is, this is my standard way of randomising everything, is I use the time. So I do as much of the main colour as I feel like doing. Then when I feel like throwing in some stripes, I check what the time is. So the time right now is 7 minutes past 3, so 15:07 on my phone. So I would do for that, I would do one stripe of the contrast colour, and then because it's actually when I say one stripe, because it is all garter, I would do 2 rows to mean one, so one garter ridge. So one garter ridge of milk of the contrast colour, then I'd do 5 garter ridges of the main colour, and then zeros for me mean eyelets. So then I'd do an eyelet row, and what was it, 8, and then another, so it was 1 in the contrast, 5 in the main, an eyelet row in the contrast, and then 8 in the main colour. And then by the time you've done that, you check the time again. Obviously time's moved on quite a bit, so then you get your next stripe sequence. And I like that method. I think that works really well, because there's no such, you can't choose to be random. It's just not the way that humans work. Choosing random is very difficult, so I feel like you need an external resource to do that, and you always need to apply a rule to create your randomness, so you can't ever really be truly random, can you? Anyway, that's that done, and I've entered it on Facebook and Instagram as my entry for her make along. Look, if I put it on, I'm not so sure that that colour really suits me, but I like it. And I've got I've made the Fuss Free Festival shawl before in a DK weight, and in the winter that's probably the shawl that I pick up most often to wear, because it's just a very wearable shape. It's that elongated triangle. It's not a triangle, is it? What's it called? Don't know. Does it matter? Not really. It's like an asymmetric triangle shape. I don't know why I'm doing the, I don't know, I could just hold it out, couldn't I? But you've seen it, you know what it is. And I just find that's very easy to wear and doesn't slip off so much. I find like even like a triangle shawl, it just falls off. But yeah, this or really just like a very long rectangle, like a wrap, those really are my favourite shawl shapes. Or I've got like that one, that's like an elongated crescent. It's just I prefer length. Let's just move on. Let's just move on. Forget I said that. Now that is it for my finished objects, and we're only 15 minutes in, so that's not bad going, is it? So, whips. Now, I don't know if you were here in February. If you weren't, here's a quick recap for you. In February, I swore blind that as much as I really fancied it, I was never going to buy a loom. I don't need any more crafts in my life. But if you look here, yes, that's a loom. Thank you, Unravel at Farnham Maltings. They had the Threshing Barn there, and the woman was really lovely, and I spoke to her at length about it. And then my birthday was coming up in March, and I messaged the other half, and he said, go for it if you want one, because I was like, they're quite expensive as well. He said, well, just go for it, and that could be your birthday present. So there's my loom. I have a weaving loom. That's my first attempt on it. I'm not going to hook it down. I have watched a couple of YouTube tutorials, but really just on the setting it up. I haven't really watched any actual weaving, because I like to just sort of wing it and just sort of throw myself into things and just have a go. So I used a very cheap sparkly acrylic that I had hanging around left over from making gem poodles, and I use that as my warp and my weft. And I would say a very cheap acrylic is probably not the greatest idea, because it's quite stretchy when it's under tension, and so my warp threads have been a bit skew-if and a bit losing tension in some bits and seem to gain tension in other bits. So it's not perfect by any means, but I have worked out how to do stripes. I did break one warp thread, and I worked out how to fix it. So I'm going to carry on with that. That's my Saturday project. So I spent hours and hours on that yesterday, and I really enjoyed it. I loved the sort of setting it up, putting all the warp threads on. Much easier than I thought it was going to be. I don't know why I'd got it into my head it was going to be quite intimidating, quite difficult to do. Really not. Really not. Super simple. And then the only thing that's been difficult with it has been my warp tension, because I've used cheap crappy yarn. Yeah, that's, I mean, it's not crappy to knit with, but for weaving it's not very far from ideal. So I'm going to use better quality yarn when I start weaving properly. But all I really want to do, and I have had people say to me already, oh, you'll get bored of that, it's a rigid heddle loom, it's just up and down, and you know you can only put the reeds are the things that you lift up and down. It will hold. It's only got one in there at the moment because I'm practicing doing plain weave, but you can have two on there, so you can do sort of patterning with it. And people have already said to me, oh, you'll get bored with that, and then you'll have to buy a different one, and it was wrong. It's not the wrong thing to buy if I'm enjoying it, and really all I want to do is plain weaving with it. I find that super satisfying, and I wanted to do something really simple that would be fun, and I can use up a lot of scrap yarns with it. That's really why I bought it. And I'm going to make just endless scarves, and I may donate them to charity. I may put them in my Etsy shop. I may do nothing with them whatsoever, but I'm happy and I really enjoy it. I really recommend it. If you can do like I said, I bought mine's an Ashford, it's an Ashford rigid heddle loom. I can't remember what the name of it is called. It's not one of the knitters looms, it's the other one. But I would recommend going to the Threshing Barn. You can see them in person at shows, but they have a shop and they have an online shop. But speak to them if you need anything, because they're so nice. There's a company called Tabby and Tweed, who pop up at yarn shows and do simple weaving kits, and they do just like little tablet kits, and you can weave bookmarks and things, and they quite often have workshops, and I think they have workshops where they're based too. So I think that would be a really good thing to do. It's too far away for me to get to them, and I like winging it, so I'm happy as I am. But I'm really happy with it. I'm really glad I bought it. I'm not very good at practical things, like putting things together. Why do I say that? And then when I actually do it, it's not a big deal at all. I'm not very good at the idea of doing it, but once I get going, I'm absolutely fine. It's a start. I mean, it's sat here. in a box waiting for me to put it together since February, and I only put it together yesterday, and that was the 1st of July. So I just need to kick myself up the bum a bit really and just get going with things, but I have got going now and I really love it, and it's my new favourite thing. My only issue now is I don't know where the hell I'm going to keep it, because I can't leave it hanging up on that door forever, because if that falls down and lands on the cat, then that's going to really hurt her, so I can't risk that. And I have already filled this house up with my stuff, so I need to do a bit of thinking about how I'm going to store it. I can see one place that would be ideal, but then I can't think of the place to put the things that are there. Which needs a bit more thought, quite a lot more thought. So, moving on. My next thing is, it's the 2nd of July, so that means I finished June's part of my temperature scarf, which has gone colour crazy. If you follow me on Instagram, I've got an Instagram account for Jim Poodle, which is, you know, my Etsy shop, but my one for this and just personal stuff is called Knitting Not Screaming, same as the podcast. So I post one picture a month of progress with this. But this is where, I mean, when you think all the rest of it has been quite greeny colours and grey, lots of grey, and now between the progress keeper, you can't even see that because it's green on green, between the progress keepers is a month. So June got very colourful, and see where we're, see here where we're yellow and pink, those are the really unbearable days. That's the days when it's much too hot for me and I don't cope. These days are okay, but still blooming hot. These days have cooler days where the green is, but the pink is a hot day. And the start of the month was pretty perfect for me, good conditions for me. And then it gradually got, like, the bits where it's pink and yellow, those are days that I've really struggled. So now we're going into July, things have calmed down a bit more. This big stripe of yellow, that's, the yellow was the nighttime temperature. So I do the lowest and the highest temperature of the day. So that meant that the temperature from the nighttime to the daytime on the 1st, from the 30th of June to the 1st of July, didn't really change at all. And then the high temperature was this blue, which is, I think, 20 to 24. See, I'm really happy with that. I really like how colourful it is. I mean, I love these colours, even though, you know, some of these colours represent uncomfortable days for me. I just love that it goes into all this kind of like colourful madness right in the middle, and then it's going to gradually go back the way it came into like a little bit more blues, and then that's the springy bits, and then we're going into winter where it gets like icy cold, properly cold. Love it. And every day, I never get behind on it. I do it every day because it's only a scarf, because it's not a blanket. Lots of people do temperature blankets, don't they? Which I feel like is quite a lot of knitting to do every day, which is, I think, why people fall behind with them. So that's why I chose a scarf, because it's only like, I think that's probably about 50 odd stitches wide, and it's double knit, so it grows really quickly. It's really long, and it's not hard to, and I like the I base mine on the zigzag scarf, but just, you know, it's just a chevron stitch pattern, repeat. I'm really happy with that. It's still going well, I still love it, but you won't see that again until August now. Gosh, that doesn't seem right, does it? There could be August coming up, and well, we've only just started July, haven't we? But even it being July, I find it a bit kind of like, what? So I have been doing a little bit more on this vintage sweater that I showed you. I've showed you this before. This is in that very expensive, inexplicably expensive project bag that I bought on a whim. So, oh, that's the back. The front and the back of this, it's like seed stitch and cables all over. It's only got little short sleeves, and it's a 35-inch bust, so it is certainly not going to be for me. I finished the back, which I showed you before, and then the front piece is exactly the same as the back piece, which I find quite odd. But we're going to go with it. We're just going to go with it. It just says literally make two the same. I think you get something a little bit different on the shoulders here because the neckline is quite high. And what you do is you have like a little opening on the shoulder. So I think that, and they're using this, a press stud. This is where it's from. This is a original book from 1949, and I know it's from 1949 because it's got an inscription in it. So, where are you? Here it is, here it is. Oh, jersey, sports jersey. It's really lovely, isn't it? Anyway, it's not going to fit me, it being a 35-inch bust and my bust being north of there. So I'm making that just for the fun of making it, really, and that will end up in my Etsy shop at some point. But please, no inquiries about buying it, because we have to wait and see what size it actually turns out. I want to check that my gauge is right, because you never know. Once it's been blocked and what have you, we'll see what we've really got at the end of it and whether it's good enough to be sold. So no inquiries about that, please. I don't take commissions for knitwear because I don't really see myself as a knitting expert. Who does? Who does? I know we're all guilty of that, thinking we're not as good as we are. But I have made things and sold, knitted things and sold them, and people have absolutely loved them. And I have taken commissions to make things, because you sell one and then suddenly like 5 or 6 other people pop up and say like, oh, can I have one? But then I got fed up with making the same thing, so I've stopped doing it for ages. But it is coming along really well, and I love that colour. Again, that colour's not really me. It's another, I mean, it's very pink. It's almost like getting slightly towards coral pink, which wouldn't suit me at all, and the style wouldn't suit me even if it was my size. But I really love doing vintage knits. I'm going to show you something now which is a disaster, but this is a way of when you make things not using a pattern. If you want to design your own knitting, embroidery, well, this is an embroidery thing, and I've had this idea to embroider a knit stitch, so like do like a heart or a star or something, and then fill that with embroidered stockinette stitch. Now I have an internal quest now of not being able to replicate knitting stitch in embroidery. So I've got some scrap fabric here, and I've drawn out a knit stitch, and then I've tried embroidering it. I've had a few goes at this already and it's not worked out, and this isn't working either. But I'm keeping it as just a, I don't know if you can see that. See, look, you can see my illustration of knit stitch. I think it's pretty spot on, but the embroidery doesn't work at all. So here I used 2 strands of, I've tried using different thicknesses of embroidery floss, and the thicker one doesn't work at all. A thin one doing, trying to do it as if it's applied, that didn't work out brilliantly well either. So this is like a satin stitch, and I've used, for this one I used 2 different, I used a red thread and a grey one to try and sort of replicate a variegated yarn, and that hasn't really worked out that well, to be honest. And then just a solid colour, and you couldn't see the definition of the illustration, you couldn't see the definition of the stitch. So then I started outlining them with a single thread of embroidery floss, and that hasn't worked either. So my quest for embroidered knitting goes on. I'm tempted to give up on it, but I think maybe if I reduce my embroidery illustration by quite a lot, by about 60%, I might be able to do it just with embroidery floss, just 6 strands in one go with an up and down, you know, just almost like little V, just literally embroidering little chevrons. But I'm not sure that that's really going to be that satisfying as an embroidery, is it? I'll give it a go, see how we get on, and if that doesn't work, I'll go back to my other vintage style embroidery that I want to do, which would be basically embroidering the illustrations from the front of knitting patterns. And then what I do is I kind of trace the image, and then I turn that into a watercolour on fabric, so it all goes a bit blurry, and then I embroider over that. So I haven't done that for a long time, so I might start doing that again. We'll just have to see. We'll have to see how it goes out. And I really like that white fabric that I showed you. It's got it's white and it's got a floral print over the top of it, and I love when you paint on that, the paint doesn't take as well on the printed bits as it does on the background bits, so it's almost like you're embroidering over wallpaper when you do that. It looks like I don't know, you get like on someone's, when you embroider someone's face, like on the cheeks and stuff, you can see the printed pattern through the skin tone. Anyway, I like that effect. I think it works really well and I enjoy it. My other thing is, now I shouldn't really join make-alongs because Lord knows I've got enough whips to be getting on with, but I have because Seeded Buttons, the craft shop down at Southsea, which is literally walking distance from Portsmouth, which is, you know, it's about 10 miles from here. That's a really lovely little shop, and they have a make-along going where they have 2 crochet patterns and 2 knitting patterns. One's a garment and one's an accessory on both, and I've gone for the knitting, and it was using these Caron Ripple Cakes, and the pattern is, I haven't printed it out very well. I'll see if I can just show you that on my phone. It's Caron, which are also called Yarnspirations, aren't they, online, yarnspirations.com. They have a shawl called Here It Is, the Have It Both Ways shawl. Let me show you. There you go. I don't want to show you the actual pattern. It's nice, isn't it? So you use 2 different Caron Ripple Cakes, and you just make this, you start at this pointy end, and you make this big sort of, what's that called, parallelogram, who knows. So I chose, so this is my purchase. This is the only yarn that I've purchased this month. Sorry, it's in a brown paper bag. It's a bit crinkly. So these cotton ripple cakes. It's not a bad. There you go. It's not a bad project for the summer. So I've chosen, this one is called Wildflowers. That's better. And this one is called Sunflare. But this is a more sort of a darker yellow than it's showing on screen, to be honest. It's closer to the gold end of mustard. So this is mine so far. I mean, this is the right side and that's the wrong side, but really it's garter, so who cares. Now, I can't say that I enjoy this yarn. Don't really like knitting with cotton, and I don't really like the way that this is going in the middle with these eyelet increases, because it's quite a thick yarn for me. This is I think this is heading towards a DK kind of way, isn't it? It doesn't actually say. No. No, it just says light, which is no use to anyone, is it? Or a 3. Who knows what that means? I think it's because it's American, so it's all sort of different terms, isn't it? So yeah, it's alright. I think I'm going to donate it when I finished it. It's not really my cup of tea. I don't know. It's like my evening TV knitting project at the moment. I'll see how we get on. See how we get on as the colours change and stuff. But yeah, I think that was a make along too far for me, really. I do like it, but I don't. What I'm not enjoying about it is there doesn't seem to be any engagement. There's they've got some evening knitting sessions for people that are doing the make-alongs, so you can go along to the shop, but they're on a Tuesday night, which is not brilliant for me, and the dates that they're on clash with when Andy's working. So he works out when he does like a shift pattern, and when he's at work he does like a really long day. So because we're a team, when he's not at work he makes dinner, when he's at work I make dinner, and I make it so that he can have it as soon as he comes in, because he's worked a really long hard day on his feet a lot, and I like to be able to do something nice for him, so I try and make him a nice dinner. And I won't go out on the days that he's working. I don't go out in the evenings at all. I mean, I very rarely go out in the evenings anyway, to be honest. I'm a bit of a homebody, but I like to be here when he gets home, to give him a little bit of pampering, like make all his cups of tea and stuff, because he's had a hard day. And anyway, those, I've gone completely off track, but their sessions are all clash with when he's working, so I can't go to those. But I don't think anyone seems to be sharing online on Instagram or anything their projects so far, so I feel a little bit like, why am I doing this? Like, there's no like update anywhere. I don't really feel like I'm part of anything, which is the whole fun of doing a knit along, isn't it? So I'm a little bit disappointed with that. I think I'm going to have to kind of just post my own pictures in a lonely kind of way and just hope that it gets picked up on, and then maybe it will inspire other people to post pictures of what they're working on. But so far I'm not really enjoying the yarn, not entirely sure about the pattern, and I don't really feel part of a make along, so that's not working brilliantly well for me at the moment. Roll on the Stephen West MCAL later in the year, and that's it for whips. So my only purchases were those 2 ripple cakes. Now they also were quite expensive. They were like £15 each. You get 240 grams in each, so you know, you do get a lot for your money. But I have seen them online for like £7 each, so I feel a bit gutted about that as well. But it is what it is, and I've got them now. So at least, even if I finish it and don't really want to keep it for myself, I can gift it, can't I? So that will be alright. Now, I finished, I think I showed you last time, I've given it away, but I was reading Folk Tales of Wales, tiny little book, very similar little crazy little folktale stories, all based on Welsh mythology and traditional storytelling. That was good. I could have sworn I had something else that I was making that I was going to show you, and I cannot find it for the life of me. I'll tell you what I am going to do though. I think what I might do with that shawl, oh, that's a really good idea. I'll have it as my thing, because I've had that pattern since, because so Ruth Loves to Knit, which is one of my favourite podcasts, she has the Dust 'em Off mail, which is started yesterday, didn't it? And you could join in with that with any pattern that you owned before the 1st of July. So, oh, that's perfect then, isn't it? Oh, I'll be part of that then. Oh, so that's alright. That's alright. Oh, I feel better about that already. Oh, brilliant. And I love that podcast. She's really good fun. And I love... there was, what's the shawl that she makes? Like, tons of. She said she's made something like 16 mindfulness cows. And she was like, yeah, I think I'm done with this now. I think that might be my last one. And I bet everyone watching it was like, is it? Is it really? Okay. See you next month. But yeah, she'd made this other one that was like a slip stitch cow or shawl. And it was absolutely gorgeous. But she'd made like 5 of those as well. And she was like, I think I've made my last one of those. So yeah, I don't often remake things, but I do. There are some things that I've made that I think, like this Fuss Free Festival shawl. This is my second one of those, and I would happily make another. I did make, remember when the Hitchhiker came out, I made loads of those, and I still got them. I don't know if I would make more. I think I'd make another Vertices Unite, because that was fun. But there's just so many things I want to make. I've made a cathedral stitch vintage cardigan that I was talking about. I must have made 5 or 6 of those, and I can't see me wanting to make another one of those in a hurry. Although I do want one for myself, so I will have to make. And I think I've got the yarn for that as well. Anyway, I'm waffling on. I'm going off on a tangent. Oh, I'm glad with that. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad of that. I'm going to put that. I'm going to use that as my make along for the Dust 'em Off make along. Ah, brilliant. Right, so I finished the Folk Tales of Wales. All I've got now to talk to you about really is bits I've been doing, things I've been watching, and that kind of stuff. So I hope you stick around for this bit, but if you don't want to and you want to pop off, bye. Please don't go. Just hang around for a little bit. Honestly, I'm here on my own so much. I haven't really got anyone to chat to. Like I said, the cat. I talk to the cat a lot, but she hasn't got a lot to say for herself. So I finished The Mother by T. I love TM Logan books. They're sort of like mystery, thrillery type things. I'll show you the thing on Goodreads. I'll show you the cover. So this is the one where she has been to prison for murdering her husband, but she didn't do it. And it's all really about her trying to clear her name, and it's all a big conspiracy, and there's all bits going on here, right, left and centre, and you don't really know what's going on, but it's really good. It's really good. It's a proper page turner, so, and you don't have to think about it too much because it just sort of carries you along. I also finished Spring Cannot Be Cancelled, David Hockney in Normandy, which I bought mainly because I like the cover. The colours on the cover are my favourite colours, which is Hockney blue. And it's got loads of illustrations in it, and I'd been flicking through it in a bookshop and just thought, no, I have to have that. And I bought the paperback, and I really wish I bought the hardback, because the hardback was obviously much bigger and you would have seen the pictures much more easily, but I love that and I'm keeping it. No, I don't normally keep books. Once I've read them, I move them on, but that one's a keeper. Then I read my local libraries. They have a book club called the Digital Readers Book Group, and you meet up once a month online to talk about the book you've read. They've had a couple of months recently where the book they chose I wasn't interested in, so I didn't join in, and then they moved the date of the catch up and I couldn't make it, so I read the book but didn't actually go to the book group. And it was Layla Slimani's there you go, The Country of Others, which is I think it's loosely based on her grandmother's story. Her grandmother, anyway, the character in the book is a young French woman who meets, in the Second World War, meets a Moroccan soldier, and they fall in love, and she's really fun and exciting, and he's all kind of sexy and brooding. And they moved to Morocco after their wedding, and it's just quite sad really. It's a good book, but gradually both of their characters get kind of worn down by circumstance. Their life's quite hard. They have a farm. He's inherited the farm from his late father, and it's just non-stop hard work. They never really have any money, and her life's quite constricted there. And then all the things that he found attractive about her in France haven't translated well into Morocco. Her character doesn't seem to fit with the expectation of a wife that he has when he's at home. So they have like their ups and downs, but I think that, you know, they are a solid relationship. But yeah, it's not a cheery book. It's all right. I can't say. It's apparently part of a trilogy, and it's all about like women in her family. I can't say I could be bothered to read any more of it, to be honest. It's all right. It's all right. Just not. I just was in the mood for something cheerier. And speaking of cheerier, we don't get much cheerier than Carol Matthews. Now, people do look down their noses at these sort of books that in the 90s people used to stupidly call chick lit. But it's a very readable, happy-go-lucky kind of book about two sisters who are coming up. They're twins actually. They're coming up to their 40th birthday. They have this older sister who's quite a high achieving. I don't know about high achieving. No, she's married a man who earns a lot of money, and she has quite a glamorous lifestyle that they're a little bit envious of, but not, you know, not in a horrific way. But because she's always so polished and glam, they always feel a little bit like dowdy next to her and a bit boring. And they decide that this is the year that they're going to change their lives and just really kind of like achieve something, achieve a goal. And it might be like one of them wants to marry her boyfriend, who is actually a married man, and the other one wants to have like more excitement in life. She's happily married, but she feels that she's in a bit of a rut. So, and it's all about how when you make a big decision, how that impacts every part of your life, and you know what might be good for you might not necessarily be everyone else's idea of what a good next step for you would be. So it's really good, but and I'm making it sound a bit more traumatic than it is. I mean, she does have like quite a run-in with her husband over. She wants to go trekking on a charity trek in Peru, and her husband's really kind of like, have you lost your mind? He doesn't get it at all, and that's caused them some friction, but nothing like majorly serious, because it's a Carol Matthews book, so everything turns out alright in the end. Don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that, because that's what these books are about. They're about being happy, and I love them. And every time I read a book like that, I think, why do I plough through these like worthy books that, you know, you read book recommendations and you think, oh yeah, this is like the next big thing, and I think, well, what I really enjoy, oh god, I've got such a tickly nose, what I really enjoy is just like feel good books. So I'm going to make an effort to read more of those sort of books, although I still have so many books on my bookshelves that I haven't read yet, that it's not an easy decision to make. I have to just kind of like read through what I've got, and I'm trying not to buy more books, because I want to clear space on my bookshelves. And if I clear space on my bookshelves, I might actually have somewhere to put that loom, mightn't I? That's the plan. But I can't read books fast enough to, I mean, that's a lot of, if you lined up books there, how many books would you have to read to accommodate that one loom? I've read 24 books so far this year, which I think is not bad going, but that would easily be 24 books, and I can't just rejig my bookshelves to accommodate it, because that's just not how it works. So that's books. Podcasts really. Oh, I watched a really good one yesterday, and I can't remember the name of her. Oh, American woman. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, I have been watching Ruth Loves to Knit, which is absolutely one of my favourite. I must admit, I prefer the British podcasters in a lot of ways. I love the Piece for Peace one, the guy Michael in America. I really like his one. I still have Fibre Hustle, but I don't think they seem to be doing any podcasts lately. But yeah, my Ruth Loves to Knit, Little Drops are wonderful. Oh, I used to love the woman in Scotland, the wee so-and-so. She doesn't seem to be recording anything at the moment, not for a long time, not since she lost her husband. Understandably, she's not really been doing any podcasts, but I used to love her one as well. On TV, we watched For Her Sins, which I found quite disconcerting, because the character in that who's the baddie, who's like the suddenly new best friend who absolutely disrupts the main character's life, is Helen in All Creatures Great and Small, who's absolutely lovely. She's a really lovely woman in that, and then she turns up in this. She's playing a really manipulative, devious little so-and-so. So yeah, it was really good, but I couldn't quite switch off the "but that's Helen" thing, which was ridiculous. We haven't finished yet. We're in the middle of watching The Thing with Pam, which I think is only on streaming on Channel 5, and it's Renee Zellweger, who is absolutely I love Renee Zellweger. I don't think she's ever done anything bad. She's such a good actress. Actor, sorry. And it's based on a true story, but because it's a true story, it's the most bizarre thing. If it was just a screenplay, you would think, oh, this has gone too far. But yeah, she's like a sort of suburban woman who basically murders her best friend and gets away with it. I don't think she's going to get away with it forever, but well, she can't do, because otherwise how would we know the true story to make the programme about her? Anyway, she murders her supposed best friend. She's just the most manipulative, awful person, but it's all done in that sort of very saccharine kind of like, oh, I'm here to help you, cocked head thing, which I can't bear. I call it HR head. HR people talk to you with a cocked head. I'm just going to have to open that door because my cat is out there. Hold on. Hey, buddy. Sorry, if I don't let her in, she'll just bash the door until I do let her in. Oh, she doesn't want it to come in after all. Never mind. Anyway, The Thing with Pam is really funny, and it's a little bit, if you remember the first series of Fargo, when that was a TV series, it's very reminiscent of that, and it's absolutely brilliant. I definitely recommend that. Apart from that, I haven't really done much. I went to Chichester the other day. I went for a funeral, but I went for lunch first, and a bit of a walk around Chichester, which is just the loveliest place. So nice, and you know, if I was there for a different reason, I would have done a lot of shopping. Which is really good for shops. And I had the most delicious lunch in this little place, St Michael's coffee shop, which doesn't seem to be a church shop. I don't know why it's called St Michael's, but it's like this organic cafe, and it's really sort of eccentric and quirky in that they only seem to have about 4 things on the menu, but they're all really nice things. But it's got the most amazing, and it's all sort of higgledy-piggledy. The seating is, they're sitting upstairs, but it says don't go and sit upstairs unless you check that there's no seating downstairs. And there's seating and all, like, it's either like it used to be a pub or a house or something, because it's all, nothing's on the same level as anything else. There's steps up, steps down. So yeah, I'm not sure it'd be great for wheelchair users, although you could come in the back. Yeah, and it's all like little higgledy-piggledy rooms, but outside they've got this courtyard garden, which is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's absolutely lovely, and I don't think, have I deleted? No, I haven't. Look, I don't know if can you see that? It's just this lovely, beautiful, like a little cottage garden, and it's really heavily planted, and you sit out there in the sunshine or in a little shady spot, and it's all like little wooden benches and tables, and my table was all higgledy-piggledy, and have the most delicious food you've ever had. I had literally just had a cheese and spinach toasty, but goodness knows what sort of cheese that cheddar was. I think it was a cheddar, but it was like a cheddar that tasted almost like a blue cheese and had a little bit of sort of onioniness to it. God, it was so lovely. Really enjoyed it. And then the funeral I went to was longer than, because I thought maybe I'll pop to a couple of shops on my way home after the funeral, but the funeral was like 2 whole hours long. I've never been to a 2-hour funeral before, so I wasn't really expecting it to be quite that long, so I had to just quickly nip home for the train afterwards. But I do intend to pop over to Chichester again to just have a mooch around the shops. I've just booked tickets to go to, talking to Chichester, to go to the Goodwood Revival in September, so really looking forward to that. In my Etsy shop I have made a few updates. I've put in snoods this week in mustard, a kind of neon green colour, a dark green, and at the moment I'm working on this the yarn supplier calls this bamboo. Well, I'm not sure that I would call that bamboo, but oh, you can't see my cat's just walking down. A little Lulu. But yeah, bamboo's the next colour to go in stock there. And that, I believe, and I've shown you the project bags already, so that my loves is it. I think that is it. Wasn't a lot, was it? Oh, just under an hour, so I'm going to quickly go. So lovely to see you, and I hope to see you again soon, and I'll pop back next time I complete something, which hopefully won't take me a whole month again. So please hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, hit the like thing, and then maybe I'll have more friends here who can come and spend an hour with me. I would absolutely love that, because I'm a working from home person, so my human contact is quite limited, but I like the interaction here a lot. Anyway, have a lovely month, or however long it is till I see you again. See you soon. Bye bye.